We spend decades working to achieve a perfect life, one that has a caring soulmate, a satisfying job, an ideal house, a happy family, a supportive network of friends, and involvement in a sport or creative hobby, all within a safe and friendly community. This level of perfection takes hard work and dedication, but we direct our energies towards it and make sacrifices to achieve it because modern society relentlessly promotes this archetype as the most desirable way to live. There is, however, an inherent danger in living in a comfort zone. Eventually, the certain embrace of the familiar becomes a frustrating straitjacket where the security of the known morphs into boredom and the endless repetition of our daily lives leads to frustration. Inevitably, as our comfortable lives progress in a mysterious downward spiral, as midlife approaches like a battleship on the horizon, we begin to yearn for a life that is significantly different to the one we've invested so much time and energy in achieving. If you've got to the point where you're thinking about a life that is different to the one you have now, or if you simply want to change a small but significant part of it, then you need to know that your new life begins at the edge of the comfort zone. This video will show you how to break out of the constraints of your current unexciting life and start the search for something that will give you a greater level of contentment. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Living an Unlived Life, where my goal is to find contentment by honouring my dreams, where I'm actively transforming regret and disappointment into a life of satisfaction in my later years. But before I talk about how you can break out of your comfort zone without causing any damage to yourself and those around you, let's take a look at how you got there. In today's modern society, our life journey goes a little like this. Our early childhood years are spent taking direction from the forces closest to us, our parents, relatives, carers and teachers, and the cultural impositions of our community. Many of our beliefs have already been moulded as we head towards puberty, but we question little until our high school years when we're thrown into the spin cycle of teenage turmoil. No matter how or where you were raised, the decade from pre-teens to 20 is one of incessant demands and constant uncertainty. We change schools, swap friends, move with our family to a different location while we churn through a range of extracurricular activities. Our parents separate, find new partners, and new siblings are forced upon us while we are hung out to dry during the exam process of our final year of compulsory education. Throughout this time, we slide in and out of relationships, searching for a partner who will vow to accompany us on all that lies ahead. Then, into our 20s, in a rebound from the turmoil of our teenage years, we start a relentless search for stability, the satisfying job, the ideal house, the happy family, the support of friends, and involvement in a sporting interest or creative hobby. In short, we spend all our energy searching for comfort and, when we find it, keeping ourselves there. If you are lucky, this stability lasts a couple of decades, but even then, for most people, the cost of this type of lifestyle is that their horizons inevitably narrow as they increasingly make sacrifices to focus on the matters which seem most important to them, bringing in money and caring for the important people in their lives. Because modern society rewards those who know more than anyone else about a particular subject, our careers become increasingly specialised. Not only do we become doctors and lawyers and engineers, but we become paediatric craniofacial neurosurgeons and criminal defence lawyers and nanoelectronics electrical engineers. In addition, our social lives are narrowed by the desire to relate to people who are in the same stage of life as we are. If we have children, most of our friends have children. If we have twins, we gain friends who have twins. If we have a child with a learning difficulty, such as autism, we gain friends who have autistic children. As our careers and lifestyles narrow, our personalities narrow, often to the point that not only are our partners sick of having the same old conversations with us, but we are sick of the sound of our own voices. However, while our lives become increasingly narrow, the world outside offers greater and greater diversity of opportunity, and we become aware of the ever-widening gap between what we have and what we could have. We then suffer FOMO, that fear of missing out on something that will make our lives not necessarily happier, for that will always be an ephemeral emotion, but more contented. But perceiving the cost of change to be too enormous, we hunker down, trying to convince ourselves that being comfortable should be enough because we worked so hard to achieve it. And so, the comfort zone we so enthusiastically created becomes our own self-made prison. It's a pretty prison, admittedly, with all sorts of material comforts, but it's a prison nevertheless because we are not actually doing the one thing that deeply satisfies our soul. So what is the alternative? What can you do to keep the good in what you've got now while reconnecting with a more exciting way of living? What you can do is to acknowledge the possibility that you have an unlived life lurking in your past that's begging for attention. As I describe in my first video in this series, an unlived life is a way of living that you hold dear in your heart, but for whatever reason, you have not found the motivation or resources to progress. The vision of your unlived life can be as big as changing your entire lifestyle or as small as a single aspect of your personality, but is nevertheless important to you. Your unlived life can be buried so deep that you are not aware that it is causing friction in your current life. You may be aware that there is something missing in your life and have an inkling of what it is, but immediately dismiss the thought whenever it surfaces as being too difficult to achieve or too expensive. At the other end of the spectrum, your unlived life may loom large on a daily basis, but the idea is so unmanageable that thinking about it only makes you all the more anxious and depressed, so you think about it as little as possible. However, there is torment in not living your unlived life. Ignoring your unlived life results in fear, regret, grief, sacrificed desires, intense longing, settling for second best disguised as practicality, and ultimately chronic depression. Abandoned dreams, untapped ideas, underdeveloped talent, and unrealized potential all pile up to damage your current life. If you decide to take action to address your unlived life, the first step is to accept the possibility that there is something important missing from the way you are currently living. Something that, if pursued, would curtail your negative emotions and bring about a level of contentment you've not known in the past. But before we move on, let's get clear what living an unlived life is not. It is not living the dream, because this implies that it is someone else's dream you are pursuing, or that it is a generalized dream, likely imposed by society, or a dream of an envious lifestyle promoted by social influences that is filled with expensive consumer goods and glamorous social activities. In contrast, an unlived life is very personal. It is yours to be created from your own aspirations and crafted from your own suite of skills and knowledge. So how do you find your unlived life? The first action to take is to go back to your early childhood and search for significant moments. Set aside an hour with pen and paper or start a dedicated journal. Find photos and videos about yourself during those early years. What were the highlights of your life as a young child? What frustrations and disappointments did you have? List the activities and objects you liked and disliked and identify why they moved you. Who were your best friends? Who were you jealous of? Did you have any enemies? Did you stay in one place or did your family move often? Once you find a memory that excites you, take notes of the details, especially the various elements of what drove you that day. If you haven't already watched my video on the key aspects of motivation, take some time out to watch that too. A week later, do the same thing for your teenage years. Add in some observations about whether you had a part-time job and your career aspirations. Then, after another week, do the same thing for the years after you left school. The following week, recall the various relationships you've had. Particularly think about all the good ones. Ask yourself a range of questions. Why were you close to that particular person? What did they give you that you needed? It's important that you take time to carry out this process. Don't expect to do this sort of analysis all in one day, because the brain works in mysterious ways, and while you're busy doing something else, a memory will pop up that brings with it a significant emotion. If you do this work thoroughly, you will end up with a list of events, activities, and people that were important to you. Among them, there will, hopefully, be at least one that kindles a spark of excitement in you, which is exactly what you're looking for, because this has the potential to be revived to pursue in the future. During this process, be patient and kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up for having missed what you think now might have been a good opportunity. It took a long time to get to where you are now, and it will take a while to unwind the burden of responsibility you've accumulated over the last few decades, sufficiently to see that there's a new direction you can take which will likely bring you a greater level of contentment. When you make a discovery of what's missing in your life, as I'm sure you will, take it easy. Going too fast might not be the right way to proceed at the moment. Let the idea percolate in your mind, but don't share it with anyone else at the moment. That will come later when you've decided that it's time to take action, to start living your unlived life, because this action will certainly take you out of your comfort zone. And while that ultimately is likely to be a good thing, moving too fast may be something that might scare everyone else around you. In my next episode, I explain why modern life leaves many people in a state of psychological and emotional pain, which they try to alleviate through a range of harmful self-administered medications. And I offer some thoughts on what you might be able to do to prevent yourself falling into this trap, or to help yourself get out of it if you feel like that's happened to you already. If you go to my website, you can get a copy of my free book, which will help you move further along the path to a better life. And if it's your thing, you can like this video and subscribe to my channel.